The mashed potatoes were halfway to her mouth when it started. My hand was shaking as I hit play. I had rehearsed it for 3 nights, practiced where to set my phone, which clip to use, and how not to blink when it finally landed. But I still wasn't ready for what it did to the room. Her father dropped his fork. Her mother clutched her wine glass like it might leap away. The baby, her niece, cooed in the high chair, blissfully unaware that the air had turned to ash. And her? She blinked once, twice, then froze. My phone sat right next to the gravy boat, volume turned all the way up. On the recording, a woman's voice laughed. Her voice. It was unmistakable. I'd heard it for 11 years across every good morning and good night. But this time, it was breathy, intimate. You should have seen his face, she said on the recording. He thought I was going to the farmer's market. I was at your place the whole time. Then a man's voice. Confident. Smirking. Think he suspects anything? She giggled. Please. He still thinks the bruise on my thigh was from yoga. The silence in our dining room swallowed us whole. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just sat back in my chair and watched her try to breathe. Her spoon never made it to her mouth. It hovered midair like the lie she couldn't swallow. She tried to speak, but all that came out was a soft, pitiful choke. Her mouth opened, then closed, and for a moment I thought she was about to lie her way out of it. But she didn't. She fainted, collapsed sideways like a rag doll someone forgot to stitch together properly. Her head hit the edge of her sister's chair on the way down. Her father leapt up. Her mother screamed. Her sister dropped her phone. The baby started crying. And I just sat there, watching, waiting, remembering the moment 3 weeks ago when I found the flash drive inside the medicine cabinet. Not even hidden, just resting behind the Tylenol, like a dare. I should have left, should have run, should have screamed, but I didn't. I downloaded every audio file on it, each one worse than the last. She didn't just cheat. She planned it, nourished it, grew it like some poisonous little garden behind my back. She called me a life support system with a paycheck. Said I was the human equivalent of unsalted crackers. And somehow, that hurt more than the sex. So I did what any spineless, beige, background husband would do. I scheduled a family dinner and brought the truth as my +1. They say when someone faints, it's only for a few seconds. That must be nice. Because for me, those seconds stretched into something else entirely. Something ugly, sticky, slow, like spilled syrup down the side of a glass. Her body crumpled beside the chair, her cheek pressed against the hardwood I installed with my bare hands the summer after our 5th anniversary. Her mother shrieked her name. Her sister jumped up so fast she knocked over the sangria. Red stains exploded across the tablecloth, as if the truth hadn't already bled out across the room. I didn't move. Not because I didn't care, but because for once, just once, I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to feel what it's like when your entire world flips upside down and nobody rushes to catch you. Her dad yelled something at me. I think it was, "What the hell did you do?" But I barely heard him. I just stared at my phone. The screen still glowed. Still said, "Now playing Yoga Brews. MP3 foot." I didn't plan for her to pass out. Honestly, I thought she'd deny it. Maybe cry. Maybe slap me. But not this. I didn't expect to break her like that. Her sister, June, knelt down beside her. "She's breathing," she said, as if that somehow made it better. Her voice cracked. She looked up at me with betrayal in her eyes. At me, like I was the villain here. Like I hadn't just dropped a nuclear warhead of betrayal onto the mashed potatoes and roasted carrots. "She's your wife, Daryl," June snapped. What kind of man humiliates his wife like this? My mouth tasted like metal. I picked up my phone and calmly locked the screen. What kind of wife sleeps with someone else in your house while you're out buying cold medicine? I replied, quietly. What kind of wife tells another man she can't wait until her emotional support houseplant finally signs the mortgage over? June flinched. Her mouth opened and closed again. Then she looked down at Blythe, who was just starting to stir, blinking like she'd been yanked out of a dream. For a second, she looked at me with terror. Real, raw terror. Like she didn't know who I was. Good. Let her meet me for the first time, now that the mask was off. I stood up, pushed my chair in. It made a loud scrape against the floor, like a judge's gavel. I looked at her parents, who were still frozen in place. "You should take her home," I said. "You all should." Her dad started to speak, but I held up a hand. "I was going to serve pie," I added softly. "But I think we're past dessert, don't you?" No one answered. I walked out of the dining room, left the clatter of dishes and crying and chaos behind me. As I passed through the hallway, I reached up to the cabinet over the coat rack and pulled out the envelope I'd hidden there 2 nights earlier. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the login credentials to a shared drive, the one with all the recordings. I set the envelope down by the door. Let them all hear it. If truth is ugly, let it be loud, too. The thing that still haunts me, even now, isn't the cheating itself. It's how stupidly, accidentally, carelessly I found it. Not through some gut instinct. Not because of lipstick on a shirt or a text from an unknown number. No, it happened because I was looking for a Phillips head screwdriver. That's it. We were putting together a shelf for her new office. She wanted it done before the weekend, said she couldn't think straight until her books were off the floor. I went to the garage like I always do. Same drawer, same shelf, same red toolbox I've had since college. And I couldn't find it. Probably got knocked into the wrong bin when I was cleaning. So I opened the old shoebox where we kept random cables, dead batteries, broken remotes, the black hole of forgotten junk. And there it was. Not the screwdriver. A flash drive. Pink. Cheap. One of those giveaway kinds you get at conferences or company parties. Something told me not to open it. I stared at it for a full minute. Maybe longer. Something about it felt wrong. Like it wasn't meant to be found. I almost put it back. Almost closed the lid and walked away like a good, clueless husband should. But I didn't. I plugged it in. Not to my laptop. To hers. She always said I was terrible with tech. That I couldn't even figure out how to open a PDF. I leaned into that. Played dumb for years. It gave her privacy. It gave her comfort. It gave her the illusion of safety. I opened the flash drive. 26 files. All labeled like projects. Client brief _04. Mockup _audio _version 1. Review tape _draft 3. For a moment, I thought maybe they were real work files. Until I clicked one. It opened to audio. Her voice. Not in a professional tone. Not giving design feedback. No. She was laughing. Not the kind of laugh she gave me when I told a joke. This laugh was lower. Hungrier. Then came his voice. I stopped breathing. At first I only listened to 10 seconds. Closed the window. Sat perfectly still while the screen went black. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was acting? Maybe it was some kind of role-play audio for a client? Something weird, but explainable? But she said his name in the next file. Not a stage name. A real name. Aiden. I didn't know any Aidens. She did. And in that recording, she said something I will never, ever forget. I feel bad sometimes. But not enough to stop. That was when something inside me shifted. Not shattered. Shattering would mean breaking completely. No, this was quieter. It was a click, like a door closing from the inside. I copied every file. Every laugh. Every whisper. Every second of betrayal. And then I put the drive back exactly where I found it. Closed the shoebox. Shut the garage drawer. Went back inside and handed her the screwdriver I eventually found under the sink, as if nothing had happened. She smiled at me. Kissed my cheek. Perfect timing, she said. I nodded. Always. The day after I found the recordings, something shifted in how I moved through the house. I wasn't searching for more evidence. Not exactly. I wasn't trying to catch her red-handed. No, I was doing something else, something worse. I was testing her. Watching her like you'd watch a spider you just noticed crawling up the inside of a lampshade. Quietly, curiously, wondering how long it's been there, and if it knows you've seen it. I started small. I deleted the calendar reminder she'd set for her yoga class on Thursday morning. I waited to see if she noticed. She didn't. She grabbed her mat, tied her hair up the same way she always did, kissed me on the forehead, and left with a smile that used to mean something. I stood at the window and watched her back out of the driveway. She never once looked up at the house. That was test one. She failed. Then I moved her charger. Just slightly. Unplugged it from the outlet and tucked it behind the bed frame where she wouldn't think to check immediately. When she came home that night, she said nothing. Just sighed, annoyed, when she couldn't find it, then used mine. Every time she passed one of my quiet traps, a little more of me shut down. I wasn't angry, not in the way I thought I'd be. I didn't feel rage. I felt something worse, clarity. Like someone had wiped the fog off a mirror, and I was finally seeing my reflection, and hers, for what they were. I started keeping a notebook. Not because I needed to remember anything. The recordings were already burned into my brain. But I needed to document it. control it. So I wrote down every lie, every inconsistency, every moment that felt rehearsed or hollow. Page after page of betrayal framed in bullet points and timestamps. It felt clinical, necessary. I even tracked her moods. Tuesday, unusually affectionate, likely guilt. Wednesday, detached, distracted, possibly prepping for meetup. Thursday, wore new earrings I didn't buy. Confirmed audio file 17. I didn't show the notebook to anyone. Not yet. But I thought about it. I imagined handing it to her father. The man who once told me, "You're the kind of guy who sticks." I wondered if he'd still say that after reading about how his daughter had been moaning another man's name in the car I co-signed for. The strange thing is, she never suspected a thing. I was calmer than ever. I cooked her dinner. I complimented her outfits. I even initiated sex one night just to see if she'd pull away, but she didn't. She leaned into me like everything was normal. Like she wasn't keeping a secret so large it warped the air between us. And that's when I knew I had her. Not in the way a man has a woman. I mean, I had her trapped. She had grown comfortable inside the lie. She thought she was good at it. She thought I was still that version of me, the soft-spoken husband who fixed the Wi-Fi and forgot anniversaries and left passive-aggressive notes when the trash didn't get taken out. But that man was gone. What was left was someone collecting evidence, planning something surgical, something public. The invitation started as a suggestion, a passing remark made while she was half distracted by a podcast, lying on the couch in those oversized socks she always wore when she didn't want to be touched. I was in the kitchen, pretending to wash dishes while watching her reflection in the microwave door. "What if we did a dinner?" I said, keeping my tone casual. "It's been ages since your parents came over. You think they'd like that?" She barely looked up. "I guess." Asked June too. "And Kent. But not their kid. I don't want to clean applesauce off the couch again." That was it. No suspicion. No follow-up questions. Just a nod and a distracted yes. She had no idea I was marking a date on the calendar for something far colder than baked chicken and wine. This wouldn't be a meal, it would be an autopsy. Over the next few days, I orchestrated everything with the kind of care most people reserve for wedding receptions. I called her mother myself, told her it was going to be something special. I knew she'd take that and run with it, turning it into a small family celebration. She loved that stuff, matching napkins, just a few toasts, and an excuse to show off her new ankle-length cardigan. I ordered wine. 3 bottles. Not the cheap kind, but not too good either. The kind that leaves a lingering aftertaste, sharp, a little acidic. Seemed appropriate. I printed out a menu and folded it neatly at each place, setting like it was a damn country club brunch. I even baked a pie the night before. Apple. Her favorite. Or at least, it used to be. Then came the real part of the preparation. I transferred 5 specific audio files to my phone. Only 5. Not the most graphic ones, but the most damning. The ones where they laughed about me, where she called our life a holding pattern until something better shows up. The one where she referred to our marriage as a comfortable death. That phrase stuck to me like grease on a paper plate. I edited the recordings carefully, not to manipulate, but to frame. I added 2 seconds of silence before each clip, just enough time for people to process what they'd heard before the next wound was opened. I wanted them to absorb her voice in full clarity, her tone, her cruelty, her certainty that no one would ever find out. I created a playlist. I called it Dinner Music. On the day of the dinner, I ironed a shirt I hadn't worn since our last anniversary. She didn't notice. She was too busy arranging the table, fluffing pillows, lighting the candles she bought last summer on clearance but claimed were imported. I told her she looked beautiful. She smiled, lied with her entire face. The guests arrived right on time. Her mother brought flowers. Her father brought that phony laugh he always used around me. Kent shook my hand like he was being forced to. June complimented the lighting, then whispered to her sister that she was glad someone finally made Daryl plan something. We sat. We ate. We drank. Small talk floated around like dust in the light. No one noticed my hands trembling under the table. No one saw how tightly I was gripping my phone in my lap, waiting for the exact moment when the room would be too comfortable, when the illusion would be so complete that tearing it apart would be like slashing through silk. And when that moment came, I reached forward, placed my phone next to the salt shaker, and pressed play. The first words were soft. Her voice. Calm. Clear. And then everything shattered. It didn't happen all at once. That's what surprised me the most. I expected an explosion, someone knocking over a chair, a scream, a wine glass flung against the wall. But what I got instead was something slower, more suffocating. The moment her voice came out of the phone speaker, the air in the room turned to glass. You could feel it, like the room had been hermetically sealed in shame. She didn't recognize the clip at first. Her brow furrowed, confused. She looked at my phone, then back at me, her mouth already starting to open with a question she'd never get to ask. Because by the fourth second of the recording, she spoke again, the recorded version of her, laughing, saying, "He thinks I'm at a client meeting. I was literally on your lap 20 minutes ago." That was when her jaw locked. Her whole body stiffened like someone had flipped a switch inside her spine. Her mother was the first to speak, and she didn't even say a word, just gasped. Her hand covered her mouth and stayed there, frozen like she'd been caught watching a crime scene. Her father looked at me, then at her, then back at me, and I could see the crack forming in his face, like it physically hurt him to do the math in his head. "What is this?" Blythe asked, her voice already trembling. But I didn't respond. I just reached out, tapped the screen again, and let the next clip roll. This time it was that same man's voice, laughing in the background. She called him Aiden in the recording. Clear as day. Then came the line I picked specifically for this moment. If he ever found out, he'd cry into his cereal and write a poem or something. June muttered something under her breath. Kent's chair creaked as he shifted uncomfortably. The baby monitor crackled from the living room where her sister's kid was napping upstairs. It was such an ordinary sound. That's what made it worse, that all this pain was happening while the world kept turning. Blythe stood up. Too fast. Her wine glass toppled. Red liquid spilled like blood across the linen table runner. She didn't even notice. She just stared at me with this pale, shocked disbelief, like I'd just torn off a mask she didn't even know she was wearing. "What the hell is this?" she whispered again, louder this time, but I didn't blink. I just met her eyes and asked one simple question. "Do you want to keep listening?" That's when the denial started. "You're twisting things. These are out of context. You don't know what you're talking about." Her voice got higher, more defensive. "That's private. You violated. You had no right." "No right." I cut in, calmly, without raising my voice. "You recorded your affair on a flash drive and left it in the garage. You didn't even bother to hide it, Blythe. It was next to the dead batteries and broken Christmas lights." Her father's head dropped into his hands. "Wait, Aiden," her sister finally said, blinking. "Aiden, from your job? The one with the baby?" Her silence was the answer. Her mother pushed her chair back and stood, trembling, eyes wet. "You told me Daryl was distant. You said you were lonely." Her voice cracked. "You said he didn't care." Blythe's face collapsed. For the first time that night, she didn't look angry. She looked exposed, like every inch of her had been peeled away and replaced with something brittle. "I made a mistake," she finally whispered, voice shaking. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was going to end it. I swear." "You did end it," I said, slowly rising to my feet. "Tonight." I left the phone on the table, still unlocked, still cued to the next clip. And then I walked out. Not to slam a door, not to make a scene. I walked out the way she'd been walking out of our marriage for months. Quietly, while no one was watching. When I walked out of that dining room, I thought the hardest part was over. I thought pressing play, letting those files spill across the table like poison, would be the final act. But the real pain came later, after the voices stopped echoing and the house was empty. Because silence, when you know the truth, is louder than any recording. It follows you, presses against your ears until you can't hear anything else. That's what I took home with me that night. Silence with teeth. I didn't stay to see how it ended. I left my phone there on purpose, still glowing, still sitting beside the gravy boat like an uninvited guest. I wanted them all to keep listening after I walked out. I wanted them to hear every disgusting detail she'd thought she could bury. By the time I got back to my house, my phone had been turned off, probably by her father. Maybe he thought he was protecting her. Maybe he couldn't bear to hear his daughter's voice in that context. But it didn't matter. I didn't need to be there anymore. I'd already detonated the bomb. I sat in the dark living room for hours, staring at the framed photos on the mantel. Our wedding photo. Her in a white dress, me sweating in a rented tux, smiling like an idiot who thought forever meant something. I thought about taking it down, smashing the glass, throwing it in the trash. But I didn't. Not because it mattered, but because I realized destroying it would give it power it didn't deserve. It was just paper and would now. Around midnight, headlights swept across the blinds. Her sister's car. June. She came alone. She didn't knock gently. She pounded like she was breaking down a door. When I opened it, she didn't wait to be invited in. She stormed past me, her face red, her hands shaking. "You humiliated her," she hissed, standing in my living room like she owned it. In front of her parents, her child, me. What kind of man does that? I didn't shout back. I didn't explain. I just stared at her until the silence stretched so long she started to fidget. Then I finally said, "The kind of man who is tired of being wallpaper." She blinked, taken off guard. For a moment, I thought she might actually cry. But instead, she shook her head and muttered, "You're pathetic," before leaving the same way she came. Fast, unsteady, furious. I thought that would be it. But it wasn't. At 2 in the morning, my phone lit up. Unknown number. I didn't answer. A minute later, a voicemail appeared. I pressed play, and there it was, her voice. Blythe's. Weak. Slurred almost. "I can't believe you did this to me," she said, her words heavy with wine or tears or both. "You've ruined everything. You've ruined me." For a second, I almost felt pity. Almost. But then I remembered another recording, one I hadn't played at dinner. The one where she laughed and said, "He'll never leave. He's too scared of being alone." That was the moment I realized something important. She still didn't understand. She still thought I was the same man who built her bookshelves and stayed quiet when she cut me off mid-sentence. She didn't know that the silence she left me with wasn't weakness anymore. It was a weapon, and I wasn't done using it. 2 weeks. That's how long it took for the dust to finally settle. In the beginning, it was chaos. I heard things through the grapevine. Her family imploded. Her father stopped returning her calls. June, apparently, felt betrayed that her sister had let it go that far. Blythe moved out of the apartment we shared, stayed with a co-worker for a while, then checked into one of those overpriced wellness retreats that's supposed to fix your soul with green smoothies and Himalayan salt lamps. I didn't respond to any of her messages. Not the angry ones. Not the weepy ones. Not even the one where she said she finally understood what I meant when I said silence can speak louder than shouting. I didn't need to respond. She already heard everything she needed to. There was no revenge. No lawsuits. No big dramatic showdown in court. Just silence. Peaceful, absolute silence. I filed for divorce quietly. She didn't contest it. Maybe because she couldn't. Maybe because, deep down, she knew I'd already made my point in the only way that mattered. But this isn't about her anymore. It's about what came next. It's about the small things that started to come back. My appetite. My sleep. My ability to look at a mirror and not hate the man staring back. I started walking every evening. Just for myself. No destination. No goal. Just movement. I bought new bed sheets. Cooked meals I actually enjoyed. Rearranged the living room in a way that finally made sense to me. I joined a community center writing group. Nothing serious. Just a circle of people with stories to tell. I didn't tell mine right away. I just listened. But eventually, I started writing things down. Not revenge fantasies. Not letters to her. Just thoughts. Truths. Stories I forgot I had in me. That's where I met Emma. No, she didn't rescue me. She didn't fix me. She didn't need to. She just saw me. Listened. Laughed at my awkward stories. Gave me book recommendations and taught me how to drink coffee without 5 spoonfuls of sugar. And she never asked about the scars. She just sat with me, quietly, until I was ready to talk. And when I finally told her everything, she didn't flinch. She didn't pity me. She just said, "You must have loved her a lot to stay that long." I nodded. "Yeah, I did." "And you must love yourself now," she added, "to never go back." It hit me then. She was right. This story didn't end with a confrontation. It ended with a beginning. A quiet one. A simple one. Me, walking into the sunlight on a morning I didn't think I'd live to see. Me, finally understanding that some betrayals don't destroy you, they set you free. And for the first time in years, I wasn't wallpaper anymore. I was someone worth noticing. Even if the only person noticing was me.